Summer of 1943. At Camp Crossville in Tennessee, a German soldier was transfixed by the sight of the brown, effervescent liquid in the bottle, something entirely foreign to him. After spending 2 years in combat across North Africa, surviving mostly on hard biscuits and ersatz coffee, he now encountered this sugary, bubbly beverage known as Coca-Cola. What had once seemed an impossibility turned tangible. For only 5 cents at the camp canteen, he could purchase it. The guards told him that American children spent that same amount from their allowances to buy the drink. Throughout American POW camps during that summer, 371,683 German prisoners of war would face a reality that completely challenged every notion Nazi propaganda had given them regarding American frailty. They found themselves in a country where ice cream was served regularly for dessert, where soda was a daily refreshment, and where candy bars were so plentiful that guards handed them out. Foods and treats that were unfamiliar luxuries to most German children became commonplace, systematically undermining Nazi ideology more effectively than any formal propaganda effort could. The arithmetic of plenty unfolded in the ingredients of sugar and carbonation, chocolate and ice cream, exposing an American industrial output that made German privation look less like valiant endurance and more like senseless discomfort. What began as astonishment at American sweets would ultimately lead to a total psychological shift. The Desert Campaign's conclusion. The surrender of the Afrika Korps in Tunisia in May 1943 led to nearly 250,000 German and Italian troops being taken as prisoners by the Allies. These seasoned desert troops, who had forced British forces back to Egypt under RML's command, anticipated being harshly treated in captivity. Nazi propaganda had readied them for cruelty and starvation at the hands of Americans. Contrary to their expectations, just hours after their capitulation, they were presented with American K rations. These soldiers' meals, often the subject of complaints among American troops, included valuable items: crackers, processed cheese, candy, fruit bars, instant coffee, sugar tablets, and cigarettes. To German soldiers whose rations had been sparse for months, these survival rations seemed like banquets. According to official military documentation, at the North African processing centers, the U.S. Army served up pancakes with syrup, fresh eggs, and milk, foods absent from German Army rations for years. Immediately, the practice began of providing adversaries with superior food, even though its effect on morale and psychology would only become apparent later. A German officer would later report to the International Red Cross, "We anticipated going hungry as captives. Rather, the Americans fed us better than our own army had." This perplexity regarding American abundance marked the beginning of our instruction. In the summer of 1943, the Liberty ships transporting prisoners of war across the Atlantic offered a first-hand lesson in American plenty. These ships, mass-produced at unheard-of speeds, with one finished every 42 hours at the height of production, carried as many as 30,000 prisoners each month to the United States. Navy documentation indicates that prisoners' food rations aboard these vessels equaled or surpassed standard crew allowances about 3,500 calories per day, featuring fresh bread, meat, vegetables, and coffee served with sugar and milk. Refrigeration units, standard equipment on American ships, kept food fresh throughout the Atlantic journey. Notably, official reports verify that ice cream was served several times during the crossings. A July 1943 entry from the USS General M.B. Stewart's log notes that ice cream was provided to the prisoners on July 4, produced with the ship's own ice cream machine, which could make 10 gallons per cycle. For men who had not tasted ice cream since before the conflict began, enjoying this cold treat in the middle of the Atlantic was beyond belief. When the ships arrived at American ports such as Norfolk and Newport News, German prisoners of war were confronted with an America that Nazi propaganda had claimed did not exist. The Norfolk Naval Base, spanning 4,300 acres and including extensive waterfront infrastructure, moved more cargo in a single day than major German ports could handle in a week. At port exchange stores set up for dock workers, prisoners glimpsed shelves laden with candy bars from well-known producers like Hershey, Mars, and Nestle. Military supply records for 1943 note that these exchanges carried dozens of different candy brands, all sold at regular rates, most at 5 cents per bar, the same cost as throughout the United States. The trip inland by rail further expanded their exposure. In place of the cattle cars familiar to European transport, German prisoners traveled in passenger trains, where full meals were served in the dining cars. Menus from July 1943 reveal offerings such as fried chicken, vegetables, pie, and coffee. Prisoners soon recognized this was not preferential treatment, it simply reflected standard rail service in America. The vast system of prison camps built across the United States housed prisoners of war in conditions that went beyond what the Geneva Convention mandated. Camp Crossville in Tennessee, a representative example of the larger camps, featured electric lighting, hot water, flushing toilets, and heated living quarters. Yet it was the camp post exchanges, or PX stores, that left the greatest impression. Army quartermaster documentation reports that camp stores supplied a range of soda brands: Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, RC Cola, along with different types of candy and sweets, ice cream when refrigeration allowed, cigarettes, tobacco, fresh fruit and snacks, and beer containing 3.2% alcohol. Prisoners received a labor wage of 80 cents per day, which was later increased to $1. Given that candy bars and Coca-Cola each cost 5 cents, a day's pay could buy 16 of these items, luxuries that few in Germany could imagine having freely, as such products, if found at all, were usually only obtainable through special connections. Coca-Cola came to represent the idea of American industrial democracy. The Coca-Cola Company's output during the war reached extraordinary numbers. Company documentation indicates that 5 billion bottles were manufactured in 1943 by itself. The military agreement assured American soldiers around the globe would receive Coca-Cola at the price of 5 cents. This promise demanded logistics on a scale never seen before. Captured Germans learned that this beverage, mostly unfamiliar to them prior to captivity, was found everywhere across the United States. All camps were supplied with routine shipments. Labor details noticed vending machines and coolers at every turn, in gas stations, workplaces, and educational institutions. Americans from every background and age group drank it with ease, often tossing away half-finished bottles with no hesitation. Those prisoners with technical knowledge were amazed by such uniformity. The flavor of Coca-Cola was indistinguishable whether sampled in Texas or Maine, achieved through stricter quality control than anything reached by German manufacturers. The syrup concentrate, produced in Atlanta and shipped to bottling facilities across the country, showed a level of industrial organization that defied Nazi beliefs about American disarray. Archival documents from the Coca-Cola Company further revealed that many prison camps got weekly shipments of between 200 and 300 cases, each case holding 24 bottles. In the summer of 1943, Camp Hearn, Texas, alone consumed nearly 7,000 bottles each week. For German prisoners, the presence of ice cream in American prison camps seemed impossible, as they had not encountered it since before the war began. Nevertheless, Army documentation showed that ice cream was commonly provided in camps equipped with proper refrigeration during the summer season. For morale purposes, the military deemed ice cream so vital that they built ships specifically for making ice cream for the Pacific Fleet. In Camp Shelby, Mississippi, the Independence Day festivities on July 4, 1943, featured ice cream made freshly at the camp. Prisoners witnessed hand-turned freezers producing gallons of ice cream using ice, salt, cream, sugar, and flavor extracts. The seemingly casual use of rare resources such as ice in July and the use of cream and sugar for a recreational treat revealed priorities German prisoners could not comprehend. By 1944, several camps had acquired electrically operated ice cream machines. The assortment available: chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and butter pecan surpassed choices at pre-war German ice cream shops. Prisoners were able to buy ice cream bars for 10 cents, as well as ice cream sandwiches at the same price or cups featuring different flavors. Army supply data confirms that the largest camps purchased between 50 and 100 gallons of ice cream each week during the summer. Though frequency changed with the season in sight, prisoners consistently enjoyed this frozen treat that had disappeared from Germany during the war. Sugar usage in American prison camps produced a particularly striking effect. Sugar was under strict rationing rules in Germany. Civilians received a monthly ration of 280 grams when it was obtainable. In the U.S. camps, however, bowls filled with sugar were placed on mess hall dining tables for anyone to take freely. Quartermaster paperwork from 1943 up to 1945 shows that camps regularly obtained 100-pound sacks of white sugar every week. Camp bakeries did not spare sugar in their recipes. Cakes, pies, and cookies frequently appeared on the meal lists. Dining halls added sugar freely to beverages like coffee and tea, to cereals, and in desserts. An incident documented at Camp Aliceville, Alabama, underlines this sharp contrast. In August 1943, damp weather caused several hundred pounds of sugar to harden, making it tough to use. Instead of recovering it with steam as Germans would do, the kitchen staff threw it away and ordered more. German prisoners working in the kitchen reportedly were upset by such wastage. The way Americans consumed chocolate reflected a culture of widespread abundance. Leading producers such as Hershey, Mars, and Nestle manufactured millions of chocolate bars each month, even under wartime limitations. During the war period, the military bought a total of 380 million pounds of chocolate items. Prison camp barter systems offered an assortment of chocolate options. The regular Hershey bar, Dations, chocolate emergency bars, and several kinds of candy bars with chocolate were sold for prices between 5 and 10 cents. Prisoners found that Americans had distinct likes when it came to chocolate, often picking one kind over the others. Red Cross shipments sent monthly to prisoners included chocolate bars along with various other goods. Records from the American Red Cross indicate that basic parcels held either chocolate or candy bars, 2 packs of instant coffee, processed cheese, crackers, tins of meat, cigarettes, and soap. These Red Cross parcels acted as supplementary rations, offering comfort goods far beyond what German civilians got in their ordinary rations. The Thanksgiving holiday in 1943 gave German prisoners a first experience of the American season's richness. This unique American holiday showed a remarkable national ability to coordinate consumption, easily surpassing German organizational skills. According to Army files, all prisoner camps offered a conventional Thanksgiving meal featuring roast turkey with stuffing, mashed potatoes and gravy, sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, mixed vegetables, pumpkin pie, coffee, and milk. Organizing turkey dinners for 425,000 POWs plus millions of American troops around the globe demonstrated outstanding logistical prowess. That German prisoners ate the same holiday meal as U.S. troops highlighted equal treatment counter to the Nazi philosophy on race. When Christmas arrived in 1943, Americans extended surprising goodwill toward German captives. Churches, local groups, and private citizens sent gifts to German prisoners of war. The American Friends Service Committee by itself handed out 50,000 Christmas parcels to enemy soldiers in captivity. These gifts generally included homemade sweets, candy, hygiene items, games, books, cigarettes, and writing tools. Residents living close to camps often contributed extra help. For example, in Tonkawa, Oklahoma, local people brought handmade baked goods to German prisoners housed at Camp Tonkawa. In Hearne, Texas, church members provided Christmas candies and cookies to Camp Hearne. Such acts of kindness from civilians toward enemy combatants directly confronted the core of Nazi beliefs. Even with loved ones overseas fighting against Germany, Americans extended generosity to German prisoners, illustrating a form of strength anchored in compassion, not retribution.